What's up, y'all? It's your boy Marcus Bullock. I'm the CEO and founder of Flick Shop. I'm here for another episode of Marcus Ask. I'm super excited about this episode today because now we get the chance to hear directly from someone who had a loved one who was in prison and now they're home. And so I'm super excited to join Ro. Ro, she's one of the founding members of the Strong Prison Wives and Families Facebook and Instagram groups. Her community that she has built is incredible. And so she's going to be joining us in any second. So I'm excited about it. I see she's going to jump in now, so I'm going to let her in. I'm super excited to conversation. Hold on, let me find my AirPods too to make sure y'all can hear me well. All right. There she is.
Hi, Marcus.
What's going on, Ro? How are you? Let me adjust my camera and make sure you guys can see me.
I'm great. Can you see me okay? I'm great. How are you?
You're perfect. I can see you well. I can hear you well. You're good to go. This is going to be awesome. I'm so pumped to have you join us. Thank you so much for joining me for a conversation this afternoon.
Of course. I'm so happy to be here. Connected to you again and see everybody hopping on. This is so exciting.
This is going to be so much fun. One of the things I think that I enjoy the most about this journey is connecting with people who I never would have had the opportunity to be able to connect with.
Yeah.
And you are one of them. Look, we're going to jump straight in. I want to go straight into the conversation, right? Because, you know, everybody here, they really here for you. And they're really here to hear. They're really here to hear you. And I'm so pumped about that. But before I jump in, I want to take a quick second because I don't do intros. How would you introduce yourself?
I would say, well, I am Ro Clausen. I am the founder of the nonprofit Strong Prison Wives and Families. My husband was formerly incarcerated to 213 years. He was incarcerated under stacked mandatory minimum sentencing laws. How long do I have for this intro? I could go on for days, but he was awarded compassionate release just about a year ago on August 12th, 2020. We moved out to Las Vegas. I'm sure we will get into all of that throughout this conversation. But in a nutshell, we were awarded that, moved to Vegas, had a baby 2 weeks ago. It's just been amazing.
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to talk about all of this stuff here. First I want to say congratulations again.
Thank you.
On the new baby. So like now, like you, like this is like, you're like very newly, like this just happened.
This just happened, yes. If you could see with the bags under my eyes, we're getting up at night, but it's like the best. Oh, perfect. I love that. Lots of concealer and good lighting. Thank you so much. But it's like, I keep telling everyone, it is the best, most beautiful whirlwind I've ever experienced in my life. You know, you have kids.
I love it. Thank you so much for all your transparency here. Let me ask you. So I want to jump in. So Adam's your husband. Adam is amazing. I met Adam, for the first time a couple of months ago. And since our very first conversation, I'm like, oh man, like Adam, you the homie now. So I'm excited about meeting Adam and knowing you personally. But I've been following, probably not you specifically, but your one of your groups for quite some time, the Strong Prison Wives and Families. Tell me, why did you start that? Why did you start that group?
Yeah. So when I got back in touch with Adam, he was already incarcerated for 9 years. And like I said, he was a lifer. And it was on other prison wives and family members couldn't understand why I was doing what I was doing. Not only why I was getting back in touch and involved in this relationship with somebody ever. Am I freezing? Am I okay?
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay, good. So everywhere I turned, nobody understood. I started getting anxiety about it. I didn't want to talk about my relationship anymore. And it was like this awkward period. Plus I had all these questions. I was trying to go to visit. I didn't know what I could wear. I didn't know what I could mail to him. I didn't know if I could bring anything. So many things that were up in the air. So I figured if I don't have support either by people or people who were involved in this life, I'm going to go find it. And I started to search online. And at the time, this was, I think, around when you started, 2008, 2009, I found nothing. And the few things that were out there at the time, I felt lived to a stigma that a lot of people think about prison wives and girlfriends and family members. That was kind of off. And people felt like, it seemed like at the time people were just glorifying the criminal lifestyle, and they couldn't wait to get their loved one home so he could hit the street again, or she could hit the street again, and they could be Bonnie and Clyde and ride or die and all of those other cliches. And I thought, man, like, we could do so much better than this. And if it's not out there, I'm going to create it, because we need support. We need people who understand us. And so I started a blog at that point. I actually started my YouTube channel, and I connected with this woman who had a blog that was called, at the time, Strong Prison Lives. And we started a Facebook page, and we started all of our social media, and it was growing ridiculously. Like, at the time, it wasn't like the TikTok generation now where you go viral in 5 minutes and you have 1 million subscribers. But at that time, it was 500, 1,000 members a day, which was huge.
Massive. Like, that's huge.
Massive back then. Yeah. And so we just kept going, and I incorporated it as a nonprofit, and it's just kind of the rest is history. But it just speaks to how much support is needed for loved ones of the incarcerated.
Yeah. I mean, this is amazing. One of the things that, one of the things I noticed when I first heard about you all was the community that you guys were continuing to build. When we first launched Flickshop, we went live in the app stores around 2012, and you guys were like literally our first customers, right? And that was, I mean, I think about how long ago that was, and you're right, like, not only were there not a bunch of groups like this or conversations that are being had, but the reality of it is that the conversation just around criminal justice reform, or the conversations around preparing people for reentry, none of those were happening yet.
Yep.
Like, this was that was like back in the day before anyone was jumping on that kind of storyline. And so you were like very innovative during that journey, during that time when people weren't like talking about this kind of thing and like supporting, especially women who were like saying, I'm going to stand up and be heard and be felt, and then build this community around me to say, like, it's okay to love someone that's still incarcerated, and not only is it okay to love them, but I'm going to love on them hard, and I'm going to show them that I'm there for them the entire journey. Like, that was completely new and innovative back then. I mean, it had to have been scary for you at that time, and I'm wondering, like, what were other people saying? Were they saying, like, why are you supporting this guy? He's in prison, blah, blah. I mean, I can only imagine what you were hearing at that time.
Yeah, like, at best, people were nice to my face and whisper behind my back. Worse than that, people would just say the most cruel things. And I'm like, why would you say this to me? You wouldn't say that to somebody else. But I guess because he was in prison, in their head, it was validation to say the nastiest things. Like, it was one thing to say mean things about me, where you're desperate, you're dateless, you're going to wind up an old, miserable hag. You deserve to be like, oh, the worst I ever heard was, he deserves every year of those 213 years, and he deserves to die in there, and you deserve to die too because you support him.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, like, who are you? And why would you judge my life? And a lot of times it was just the people.
Were these people that knew you or didn't know you?
Both. But I think that the hardest part was the people that did know me. People that don't know me, you could write it off like, you're just a jerk. But people that did know me, I had to start telling myself, and this is a huge lesson that I've always coached other prison wives and family members through. When it's your family or people that you love, you just kind of have to take steps back and realize they want what they think is best for you and their version of your happiest life. So in their heads, a lot of people can't understand why you would dedicate your life to somebody who's in prison, especially a long-termer, a lifer, or even if you're young and he has 5, 7, 10, even 2 years. It's a lot of time from 20 to 22 to dedicate your life to somebody.
Yeah.
So they say these awful things. And I always tell people, just remember, you have to set boundaries and say, like, I get it. They're saying it because they love me. But if you're going to say it to my face, I'm going to leave, or I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and then stick to those boundaries. But know that they're doing it out of love most of the time.
That's interesting that you have that perspective. I love that you introduce love even in that conversation, right? I mean, obviously your relationship is guided by love. I mean, the tremendous sacrifice that you make in order to be able to be there to support someone who's incarcerated. Obviously, that's an extreme level of love that I think that most people just probably wouldn't understand until your loved one is the one that's in that role, and you're like, wait, no, this is not as hard as you think it is, right? Like, I love them no matter where they live. And I think that's one of the interesting things about. I want to kind of come back to one of the things that you mentioned about the difference between the people who did know you and the people who don't know you. That kind of sort of stuck out to me, like in the difference between the two, and how you can kind of sort of shrug off those who do not. I want to go back to the people who do know you, right?
Yep.
The family members who are the closest to you, the folks who know you in your community, the people who know you at work, like all of those places. How did they, I mean, the people that were closest to you, I'm not talking about like people like, oh, I know who Ro is, right? But like people who are closest to you, how did they feel about your decision to be able to be there to support Adam along this journey?
Most of them couldn't understand it. And Adam's story was so unique because he's a lifer. So they were like, who'd he kill? How many people? You had to do all of these horrible things in order to wind up with a 213-year sentence. So once I explained it to them, it was tough in the beginning. And I'm talking about very close, like family. It was very, very tough. And I fought it out because you know how we are, especially for our men, and we're going to fight hard. And I had the worst fight I ever had with, it was my 4 sisters and my best friend who I've known since I'm 7 years old. So she's like my sister. And she was 9 months pregnant at the time. And I said some cruel, nasty things. And that's how Rewind, I kind of came up with this whole theory that I was talking about. It's out of love. And then once we had our little battle and we fought it out and everybody had a breather, then we came back and we talked through it. And they realized, okay, he's not going anywhere. We said our piece. She said her piece. Now we have to figure it out. And I wound up trying to connect them with Adam, get them on calls. I tried to get them out to visit, but he was 6 hours away. So it was kind of hard. But Flick Shop, all of that stuff helped them build relationships and mend it. And then they were his biggest supporters in the long run. It took a minute, but it worked out.
Yeah, yeah. Now, I mean, that's interesting. I mean, to see how you're sacrificing your consistency, it transfers over time. People like, they get it eventually. Like, they come on the wagon as well. It's interesting. I'm pretty certain how I know how Adam would answer this next question, but I'm curious to see how you would answer this question. In your own words, how do you think that your relationship impacted Adam's reentry? Like, how just having a relationship with you along the journey and then coming home to a wife who, a woman who loves him and is there for them. How did that impact him? What did you see? How did you see that?
He said it was unbelievable, and he's so sweet, and he credits me for a lot of making his transition. It wasn't easy, but as easy as possible, because I was here to help him with some of the emotional stuff, which he prepared himself for years. He never lived like a lifer. People thought he was crazy. People thought I was crazy because we always talked about this outdate and getting married because we weren't legally married. We still aren't legally married, and having children and all this stuff. And they're like, okay, you two cuckoos. But we always kept each other and kept each other hopeful. And so when he came home and he had me to help him emotionally, and then with things that we don't think about, technology, he had never seen a touchscreen cell phone. So stuff like that, just to help him. I drove him everywhere until he got his license. Just made it so much easier. And he always said that I was his inspiration. You know how people always say, know your why? I was always his why, and now our baby, we're his why to stay out, to, not that he's going anywhere back, but to stay positive, to fight through all of the stuff that they put, the obstacles that they put in your way when you're returning, and just getting him through.
Yeah, now what are some of the things that you did to help prepare for him to come? Like when you knew, like, all right, he has an out date, he's going to be coming home, what did you do? What were some of the things you did to help prepare for that?
He was totally prepared. I was the biggest in denial. In denial. That he used to get upset with me. He's like, I need you to do this. And he would send me stuff over email. But it was hard, right? Because I'm living in New Jersey. He's in Pennsylvania. And we're moving to Vegas if and when he comes home. So he's like, look at properties. How am I going to buy a house? And I'm like, I don't know when I'm going to move in, if I'm going to move in. So I just kind of denied the whole thing. But he was so prepared. He had multiple jobs lined up before he got out. We had kind of a place to stay. We knew about where we were going. Two dodo birds. I had my whole car packed with what I could put in there when I picked him up and drove across country and got a place to live literally on the drive. But that's because we couldn't prepare. He was awarded immediate release. So it's not like, okay, you're resentenced and you have 3 years or even 3 months. It was, you have 2 days to get out of here. But he was really good. That's a conversation you guys should have, because I did nothing. He did it all.
Nah, it's dope. I'm already excited about having that conversation with him. Let me ask you, how that, because this experience was interesting, right? I mean, I think about some of the things that I've gone through in my life. And, you know, those who don't know, I served 8 years in prison myself, which is the reason why I launched Flick Shop. And because I understand the family dynamic and the importance and the value of keeping families connected along that journey. And we want to be able to do that with our mobile apps. But I also know that having an experience, interestingly enough, it showed me how to build resilience, and it prepared me and allowed me to be able to be the stronger one that can kind of sort of push through a lot of the experiences that I have out here now as a result of like the pain tolerance I have because of the experience I had, you know, while doing time in prison. And so I think that's one of the interesting things that happened to me. But one of the things I'm wondering is like how that experience, some kind of resilience that built for my mom or like for my sister or the people who love me, like how they think about wanting to bring me home every day and how they couldn't. It was nothing that they could do to help, you know, accelerate that process in my situation. And I think that it's interesting because you assess pain different when you go through these different periods in your life that are like super, super, super painful, right? It's like once you fall off the bike the first time, if you fall off again, you're like, all right, I'm cool. I fell off the bike before. It's like, it's nothing, right? But the fear of falling off at the first time is where the all of the anxiety comes from. One of the things I wonder, again, about the family members of how incarceration impacts the families, I'm wondering how these adverse situations help impact the rest of your life in other scenarios, specifically things that are hard or challenging. Like a great example for you as a new parent is motherhood, right? Parenthood, I think, is a very interesting thing that you really can't really prepare for, right? So do you think that these life experiences that you had, especially with dealing with Adam, they help prepare you for other things in your life? Did you learn something during this journey that transferred and you built up some resilience or some grit from this journey that, you know, goes into something else in your life?
Oh my gosh, 100%, absolutely. And I love that you use the term pain tolerance because I would never think to kind of convert that from emotional to physical, but it's so true. So, and I love that you use grit because Adam and I talk about being gritty constantly. And I didn't realize that's something, I thought you were born with it. Either you have it or you don't, and that's it. And I didn't realize it's something that you can build up over time. Absolutely. So when I first got back in touch with Adam in 2009, there was nothing, absolutely nothing legally. All of his appeals were done, exhausted, no possibility of parole, anything like that. So it was all going on hope. 2011, a bill was introduced. We all got all excited. I'm like, this is it. He's coming home. He's going to be home before I'm 35. It was quite a few years ago, but he's going to be home by this day. I'm going to be this age. And you're on this emotional high and boom, it crashes. It's dead. And all of your emotions go through the floor. And this happened with so many different bills, with clemency, with different appeals, things that came through the court, and you go up and you're like, this is it. And then you crash. And when you're crashing, you're like, I don't know if I could do this anymore. This is the most pain I've ever felt in my whole entire life. There were times Adam applied for clemency in 2016 when it was that big push to get a whole bunch of people out. What they would do was they would release a list of names that were approved. And you would hear that a list came through the grapevine. Then we'd have to find a list, find all the names, and it would be like this high. Okay, I see some of my girls on here, and I would text a lot of them and be like, a list was just released, and we would all go try to find it, and we would find it, and then one of us would find his name wasn't on it. They would have to try to tell me. It would be crushing, and it would crash. So this happened, and then a denied list would come out, and you would hold your breath and be like, I hope he's not on there. Same scenario, just backwards, opposite. And finally, the day before the inauguration, new president's coming in, this is all going to be over. I get word that Adam's petition is on the vice president's desk. So I'm like, oh, that's it. It's happening. Next day, inauguration, it's all happening. I'm at a doctor's appointment. I'm watching it. I'm like, oh, it's all over. Like, this is it. It's done. It's not happening. We ran out of time. So I'm trying to have small talk conversation with the girls at the desk talking about, oh, her outfit is adorable. Look at this one. Meanwhile, in the back of my head, I'm crushed. I'm trying not to cry. And this lasted for probably 6 weeks. I would be at my desk at work and just spontaneously tears. I would have to run to the bathroom and just kind of get it out, or I would be now following up for my surgery. I'd be in the waiting room at the doctor's appointment and tears, right? Because now it's all over. And again, this happened throughout. And you're right, you just build up this resilience where you're like, okay, it's bad, it's hard, hardest thing I've ever had to go through. I'm going to reassess. Do I want to keep going, or am I done at this point? Can I not do this anymore? And every night I would go to bed. Every night this happened, I would go to bed and say, I don't know, I'll wake up in the morning, I'll figure it out. And your love is so strong when you wake up in the morning, you're like, okay, I got this. And you're right. It's just like a pain tolerance. And it did transfer into other areas of my life with not only emotionally, but physically. I had a baby 3 weeks ago. I had no idea I was in labor. I felt nothing.
Wow.
People don't believe me, but of course it's a little bit different. I mean, I've been working out for many, many years, but you just learn, you develop that grit that I don't think other people that weren't in your position, my position, the other people's positions that are watching this to get through and to figure it out.
I think that's such an interesting thing, right? Like it's like one of the silver linings in the dark cloud that you never really think about. And I think that it's very interesting. I'm glad that you talked about the other people that are watching, right? Because the family members, they don't know that they're building up this pain tolerance. While you're going through it, like you have no idea that you're doing these emotional, or like what I call mental push-ups. You're doing these emotional push-ups, you're doing these mental push-ups during this journey, right? And your resilience is getting stronger and stronger, and your grit is getting stronger and stronger. And every time you got to accept a collect call, every time you have to go into a visiting room and you get patted down, or whenever you get that letter in the mail, or any of those things, right? Like they're like the relief moments where you get a chance to breathe a little bit and woo-sigh. I'm like, all right, cool. I feel the benefit of the muscles that I'm flexing right now. But it's like a mental and emotional workout. But I'm interested. I'm fascinated by that, and it's very interesting to hear that even for the family members that workout, it transfers into your lives and other spaces of your life as well. So thank you so much for hitting on that. One of the questions I have, especially because we have so many of some of the women that you support that are watching this live right now. One of the questions I have for you is, what do you see? What do you remember seeing as like one of the things that you heard the most as like one of the ailments or problems or issues that wives or women specifically had with their loved ones that were incarcerated? Did you see a lot of stuff, like a trend coming in your inbox or your DM saying, hey, we need to know more about this? Was there a thing that you think that like most people like wanted to know about or learn about or hear about your experiences?
Sure. And in different areas for different things. So the biggest trend as far as on the outside, not dealing with, let's say, visits or their loved ones or anything like that, would be a lot of people need mental health services, and I don't have them to offer yet. Hopefully one day. A lot of people need legal help. I don't have lawyers or anything like that. So we'll do the best we can and say, hey, this such and such is going through an appeal in the state of Georgia. Why don't you reach out to her and see if maybe she can give you some tips on how to write that letter, those types of things. Then, of course, it's a huge trend, just emotional. I need support. I have nobody on the outside. Like I was saying earlier, the whole reason why I developed Strong Prison Wives and Families, nobody understands me. People are nasty to my face, that type of stuff. And then as far as kind of logistics, what do I wear to visit? Is anybody else going to visit that could give me a ride? Those types of things.
What do you typically tell people when you're in the inbox and you're answering these kind of questions? Like, and specifically like some of these kinds of things, like what do you tell people that like, emotionally, I'm going through it right now, I have no idea how to make it through the evening? Like, what do you tell someone when they're having that problem?
So I have these little like rules that I set up for myself that I pass along to other people. And I started, like I told you, I started on YouTube. So I have a library of videos on there where I shared all of this stuff. It's Ro and Adam Clausen for anybody that wants to check it out.
Pause right there. Hold up. Give it to me one more time so I can make sure people get this and go over to it.
Yeah, Ro and Adam Clausen on YouTube. Full disclosure, it's a lot of baby stuff on there right now, but there's a ton of prison stuff on there as well. So a lot of times I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Sorry.
You would give us what you would tell these new moms, like these moms and these women, like when they go through these emotional moments at the middle of the night, when they like, I don't know what to do or how they emotionally get through it.
Right. Okay. So I have these rules, right? So the biggest one that I share with Strong Prison Wives and Families, and now everybody does it, is we call it the 24-hour rule, where something bad happens. You're having an emotional night. You see your ex on the street. You don't know if you want to go back to him, those types of things. 24 hours. You have 24 hours to feel your feelings. You're not going to push them down because you're not going to avoid them, because eventually they're going to come up anyway. You need to feel them. So you have 24 hours. You can call out of work. You can eat Doritos and lay on the couch. You can watch Netflix. You could do whatever it is that you need to do to wallow, to feel that pain, to cry. 24 hours later, I want you to wake up. I want you to go into work. I want you to put on your sneakers and go for a run if that's your thing. You need to get back into life and live it. Because here's the thing, When you go back into life 24 hours later, the sun's not going to automatically come out. Everything's not going to automatically be better, but you're just kind of going through the motions, and one day it will get better. But if you sit there and lay under the covers and you will not get out of bed for day after day after day, that's going to progress, and you're going to fall deeper and deeper and deeper into that hole. It's going to be more difficult to pull yourself out of it. So those little tidbits, but that's been my biggest one, is the 24-hour rule. It's gotten myself through. It's gotten so many of our Strong Prison Wives and Families members through.
We're going to hear this one again. You guys hear that? The 24-hour rule. Thank you so much. That was an amazing tip. I'm super grateful for that. You guys are going to hear that one again on repeat over and over again on Flickshop's page. I think that was great advice, and I'm grateful for you for sharing it. Look, before I let you go, I mean, you're like a wealth of information, and I'm hoping that you're going to be back. Hopefully I can get a chance when you do a Marcus Asks episode with both you and Adam on the episode. I think that would be awesome to hear both of you guys' perspective on this journey. I mean, this has been an incredible journey that you guys have been on, and you've been extremely transparent about it, and I'm so grateful because it helps so many people, right? I mean, all of the men and women that you guys support, the entire family. So I'm so excited. I saw even the growth of like Strong Prison Wives and now families, right? And so when I think about like how you guys add support to this community, I'm super grateful. One last question I have for you before I let you go. What do you wish you knew when it came to preparing for this relationship with Adam and Adam's release?
Oh, good question. So what I wish I knew when it came to preparing for the relationship was slow down, and you can't put a date on it. So I was joking before, like when I'm 25 or whatever it was, because I got back in touch with Adam when I was 31. And I would say like, okay, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to be the one that finds the loophole in the law to get him out. And of course, it's not the case. Like, there's lawyers that do that. But at the time, I would spend 8-9 hours on each day of the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, just researching, trying to find a loophole in the law. And then I would go to work Monday through Friday, and I would do my thing, and then I would go back to researching. And it's draining. Like, I wish that at that point I knew that leave that to the experts. Do what you have to do and make yourself knowledgeable, but don't stop living your life and making this relationship your whole entire life. I had so many people tell me, well, he's in there, he's miserable, so I have to be miserable out here. I even had somebody tell me he's rotting in a jail cell. So I had to kind of give it to her straight, like, does he have MRSA? Is his skin rotting off of his body? Like, what do you mean? But like, just think about what you're saying. He'll be okay. She'll be okay. Who's ever the person inside. It sucks. Frankly, it broke my heart every single day. If I sat there and thought about Adam in chains or in the hole or anything like that, you can't do it to yourself. You're not in prison. You have to live your life. So I wish I had that advice in the beginning too. And then for his release, he had his release, we had so much help. So we were at such an advantage. I just want to make it so known how grateful I am for the help. But there were all of these roadblocks throughout the way. So he needed his driver's license. Couldn't get his driver's license without his social security card, but he couldn't get his social security card without his driver's license. He, thank God, had a job with a friend. If he didn't, he needed a bank account. Couldn't get a bank account without a job. Couldn't get a job without a bank account. And it was all these circles that we were spun in. And like I said, we were at such an advantage. And I was starting to get frustrated, not him, but I told him, I said, I used to judge people all the time that got out and went right back. But now I'm eating those words, and I understand, I'm not saying it's right, but I understand why sometimes people feel that they can only do that because you're getting all of these roadblocks. You need to go get drug tested every day, but you don't have a car to get there, that type of stuff. So just be patient and rely on your resources. And for everybody on here that supports a loved one who's incarcerated, you are gold to them for getting them through that. And just patience.
I love this. Rules like this is like the gospel according to the chapter of Ro. Thank you so much for this evening. I'm super grateful for you taking some time to be very transparent with us and being supportive to the community of people who we all love. Listen, guys, if you heard it here first, in another edition of Marcus Asks, Ro did an incredible job, and she highlighted 3 big things that I heard. You may have heard something different. The things that I heard was, one, like, what is the 24-hour rule to you? You have one day to kind of sort of wallow in your moment. Give yourself some grace. validate your emotions, live through it, but tomorrow, pick yourself back up. The second one that I heard was continue to live your life. Your loved one is incarcerated, but their skin ain't peeling off their body quite yet, so they're not rotting in the cell. Don't torture yourself by thinking about that all of the time. Continue to be supportive, but also live your life. And the third thing that I heard Ro say, she said it over and over again. I don't know if you realize how many times you use the word patience. You talked about patience so many times with yourself, with your emotions, with Adam, even with the system and how you learn patience and going through that up and down roller coaster of trying to get him home. It's amazing what patience can do inside of our relationships. And if we lead and guide with love, which I think is something like the bonus thing that Ro talked a lot about this evening, then I think that we all make it to this promised land where she has amazing family that she couldn't have, even thought about. I mean, they're living in a space and in an area where they didn't even know it was going to happen. But through faith and resilience and that same grit that we talked about before, they made it here on the other end. This is another episode of Marcus Ask. Bro, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I hope that you all will also come back for future episodes of Marcus X, where we'll be having these kinds of conversations with the people in our community that really, really matter. Bro, I appreciate you. Thank you so
Marcus,
much.
thank you so much. Thank you so much for everything you do for our community as well.
I'm grateful. We'll see you next time, bro. Tell
Of course.
what's up. Please
Will
kiss
do.
that to your little baby for me.
Will do.
All right, bye.
Bye.